Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming, and that's a pleasure to be able to speak to you today.
How you doing?
Um, Maybe you can just kick off with a brief introduction because I know there's fans that have been following every one of these series and the spin-offs, but for the uninitiated, can you tell us a bit about the context of this particular part of the Power universe?
Yes, our show is called Raising Kanan, and it's basically if you've watched Power, you knew that 50 Cent played Kanan in the first one, and what a character that was. Well, Raising Kanan is about the origin story. So it's about when that character was a 15-year-old awkward teenager, as we all were at a point, and it's basically how it tells the story of how he became the Kanan that people knew in the original Power.
And it looks like part of the joy of, part of the joy of watching it, but also of making it is going back to this period of the 90s. We're in 90s Queens in New York. So was that also part of the appeal for you? And what was it like kind of getting into those clothes, getting into that different vibe? Probably all feels quite retro to you now.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great time to revisit for me because I come from what we call the old New York. It's new New York now, but you know, it's interesting because the to our wardrobe department, our set design, I really tip my hat to those guys because everything is so detailed and so spot on. But the funny thing for me playing this character Howard is, see, in the '90s I was a kid, so the way that he dresses, I, I wouldn't have dressed. So, wearing those hard bottom shoes and stuff like that is wasn't my jam back in the '90s.
And what can you tell us about, first of all, the appeal of playing Detective Howard, and also where we find this character now coming into the second season? Because we see lots of revelations coming out. So, like where do we pick up with your character, and what can we expect from the second season?
Yeah, so first of all, the appeal of playing Howard was great to me because he's a guy who's he's been through some stuff, and I wanted to figure out through the show, why he is the way that he is. Because here's a guy who's a cop in an urban neighborhood, so you got that part, and he has a lot of power, but he's also connected to the streets, and he has a lot of power there, and just just unpacking all of this spider web, I like to call it, pulling the web apart and seeing how things really went down. And again, going back to how does a 15-year-old kid become this heinous human being, you know um but everyone doesn't grow up with a drug kingpin for their mom.
And it's such an incredible cast, and it's quite an ensemble cast in lots of ways. So tell us about working with all these amazing people, with Makai, with Patina, and what were some of the highlights and maybe more challenging moments on set?
Yeah, I think Makai is an amazing young actor. Malcolm Mays Patina is phenomenal. I mean, she's just a phenomenal actress, and the a lot of the challenges are they're nuanced, right? They're It's the dialogue and stuff like that, and a lot of times, when someone slips up, or because a lot of young kids, and they may say something, and I'll be like, no, that wasn't a slang back then. We would said it like this, and just keeping all of that tight so that when the audience is having this sort of experience, it's whether you were younger and wasn't from that time, or you were my age and older, and you're from that time, that it just sticks and it's like so authentic. That's the word I'm looking for. Like, it's just authentic. So we're having a great time.
And in terms of representation and the importance of representation, and having series like this, with the level of production values that it has, why do you think that is so important? And what do you think a series like this has to offer? Why do you think people should go out and watch it?
Well, and that's a great question. I think representation is about, it should reflect what society looks like, right? And in Queens and in New York back in that time, I mean, you had all different types of people. Just happens to be a particular story about this African American family or whether you have Latino families or the Italian families, like as it all comes together, it was like, because New York is like this gumbo of cultures. So we had to represent the authenticity of that. That was important.
And how do you see kind of the climate in America right now? Because I don't know, in the past, maybe you could have said things maybe seem like they're progressing, and then other times it feels like things are going backward. You know, thinking of Black Lives Matter not that long ago. How do you see the climate now in terms of, you know, race relations? And, you know, do you think there's still a long way to go, both on and off the screen, for there to be more equality and there to be more tolerance and there to be more integration?
I think that's a great question. I think that if you just watch the news, the world seems divided. But when you go out into the world and you talk to individuals, it's like everyone wants the same thing. They want to take care of their families, take care of themselves. And that was one of the beautiful things about growing up in New York, is that the landscape is so compressed that you have to deal with everybody, you know, whether they were Chinese, Irish, Russian, like I said, Italian, Latino, of course, Black. We're all on the train together, taking the train to work or taking the train to school. And you get to experience our Jewish brothers and sisters, you know, learning how to eat their food, and oh, wow, this tastes like that. Or, you know, our Indian brothers and sisters, East Indian brothers and sisters, West Indian brothers and sisters. Like, New York is such a microcosm of what the beauty of what the world could really be. So I think that the divisiveness is, I think it's politicized, and we've all gone through so much in the last few years with, you know, COVID and everything like that, but it affected everyone in some way, shape, or form. So just that in our subconscious should push the envelope for the next generations, that, you know, it's not that you don't see color. You're supposed to see color. Look how vast the earth is. Look how many plants exist, how many flowers exist, how many fish exist, and they're all different. And they're different for a reason, but the commonality is, you know, is human life, you know, and I think that's what we have to push forward towards, and take the politics out of that, at least. Because as I said, at least in my experiences, I've been all over the place. You know, you know, when we were kids, we're like, oh, Nebraska, they just think like this. But if you actually go to Nebraska, people are decent human beings. You know, they might invite you in for oh, we're cooking, come in and have some food, and they don't even know you. So I choose to lean more into the positive aspect and not get caught up in the negative aspect.
And you've already done such an amazing array of roles across TV, and, you know, obviously in this now, and I believe you've got a Netflix film on the horizon. So how do you look back on where you've got to right now, and can you tell us a bit about what you've got coming up?
Yeah, I'm just pushing forward. I just feel thankful to still do what I love. Michael Ealy and I just had a film come up called The Devil You Know, which was great. And or at least I think it was great. But yeah, I've got a couple of projects with Netflix. Just finished the film with Lee Daniels and Glenn Close. So we're just pushing forward, and you know, I love doing raising Kanan. Like, that's my main focus. So.
Well, it's been absolutely amazing to chat to you. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us. For everyone else to go and see this the second season. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Lovely to chat to you. Thank you. Bye.